Hello everyone, my name is Alex Alcazar, and today I will be presenting our final project for our Advanced Computer Networking class. It is called Network Analyzer. It is by myself, Alex Alcazar, and Alma Campos. Our motivation for this project was to be able to have small configuration changes that can create major network performance differences. Some of those things that we could view would be packet size, how packet size affects efficiency and loss impact, how MTU controls whether packets fit cleanly or require fragmentation, how large buffers can hide packet loss but increase delay, and also congestion can cause buffer bloat, high latency, even when packets are not dropped. Our project goals. So the analyzer compares efficiency, latency, and loss under controlled network conditions. So being that we needed to build a configurable traffic generator and receiver, and that way we can measure round trip time, one-way delays, throughput, jitter, and packet loss. We also needed to test packet sizes versus performance, testing the MTU changes and how that has fragmentation effects, and also to be able to simulate buffer bloat by changing traffic rate and buffer capacity. Here's our overview of our system architecture. We have a custom client server design, which gives direct control over our packet behavior. So the client generates packets and at configurable sizes and controls transmission rate as well. And we added a sequence number and timestamp to keep track of each packet. The client side also computes total round trip time. Now the server is the one that received the packets. It computes the one-way delay. It detects any packet loss using missing sequence numbers, and it also logs experiment metrics. So some of the experimental variables which we did different approaches with was with packet size, how we can compare small versus large packet efficiency, our sending rate, trying to create normal load and congestion, and also being able to tweak our buffer size so that we can compare packet loss versus queuing delay. The metrics we were able to collect were throughput, which is the amount of data delivered per second, our round trip response delay, as well as our one-way packet delay. We have a general packet loss rate, percentage of the missing packets. We were able to view jitter, which is a variation in packet delay, and queuing delay caused by the packets waiting in the buffers. All right, and so here's some of the experiments we started with. The first test acted as our baseline. We also started sending by one packet per second. And so it compares 4 buffer settings: the baseline, a small receive buffer being on the server side, and then a small send buffer on the client side, and then also dual small buffers, meaning both the client and the server having both small buffers. So we dealt with missing acknowledgements as being counted as packet loss, and then our goal here was to see how reducing send and receive buffer sizes can affect delay and reliability. And then the results that we observed was smaller buffers cause more packet loss, especially when both send and receive buffers were small. And here this table summarizes the client-side round-trip results for the 1 packet per second experiments. The baseline sent 5 packets and had no packet loss with a median RTT of about 27.8 milliseconds. When the receive buffer was reduced to 4,096 bytes, packet loss increased to 40%, and median RTT rose to about 59.6 milliseconds. The small send buffer case also showed high delay, with a median RTT of about 115.5 milliseconds and 33.3% loss. The dual small buffer case had the highest loss rate at 57.1%. Although the received packets had lower median RTT, overall, shrinking buffers made the system less reliable, mainly by increasing packet loss. And now we have a graph where we show RTT by packet sequence. This graph shows round trip time according to the packet sequence number. So each line represents one buffer configuration, and missing responses are marked as packet loss. The baseline is the most stable because every packet receives an acknowledgement. The small receive and small send buffer tests show missing packets, indicating that smaller buffers could not consistently handle the traffic. The graph the graph also helps show not only average delay, but exactly where packet loss occurred during the run. Here we have this scatter plot, which compares packet payload size against RTT. It helps us see whether larger payloads cause higher delay. In the baseline, RTT varies, but all packets are acknowledged. In the small buffer cases, some larger packets are missing entirely, which suggests that reduced buffer capacity is more likely to fail when packet sizes grow. The small send buffer case also shows high RTT values for acknowledged packets, meaning the packets that do get through can still experience delay. All right, in this bar chart, we compare median RTT, P95 RTT, and loss rate across the client experiments. The P95 RTT represents the high-end delay experienced by the slowest packets. The small send buffer test has the highest median RTT, while the small receive buffer test has a high P95 RTT and significant packet loss. The dual small buffer test has the highest loss rate at 57.1%. The main takeaway is that smaller buffers reduce reliability, even when the sending rate is only 1 packet per second. And just to note that 95% of the packet loss had an RTT at or below that value. That's what the P95 is. So at the slowest 5%, we're above it. It shows tail latency better than the average. A low, medium, but high P95 means most packets were fine, but some packets had a big delay in spike. All right, and so this is on the server side. We also collected some data, and this test also we started with the 1 packet per second, being able to do the 4 baselines of the small receive buffer, small send buffer, and dual buffer sizes. So the goal was to see whether delay appears on the server side when the packets arrive. And the main result was the small send buffer test had the highest one-way delay, showing that send buffer limits can also slow packet delivery. And here in this table, it shows the server side one-way delay results. Unlike the client table, the measures one-way delay or OWD rather than round trip time. The baseline has a median one-way delay of about 51.1 milliseconds. And the small receive buffer case has a higher median delay of about 65.5 milliseconds. The small send buffer case has the highest delay with a median one-way delay of about 145.7 milliseconds. The dual small buffer cases has the lowest median delay among received packets, but also has fewer recorded rows. Server-side results confirm that the small send buffer condition creates the most delay. Here in this graph, it shows one-way delay by packet sequence, by packet sequence number from the server's perspective. Each point represents a packet that arrived at the server. The small send buffer case stands out because its a one-way delay is consistently much higher than the other configurations. The baseline and small receive buffer cases show moderate delay, while the dual small buffer case has lower delay for the packets that were recorded. This view is useful because it isolates delay in the client to server direction. And this scatter plot compares payload sizes with one-way delay. It shows whether larger payloads create more delay before reaching the server. The small send buffer configuration again shows the highest one-way delays, especially as payload size increases. The baseline and small receive buffer cases are lower but still show variation. The results suggest that the send buffer size has a strong impact on how quickly a larger packets can be delivered. This chart compares median one-way delay with P95 one-way delay and loss rate for the server experiments. Since the server files report no packet loss, the main comparison is delay. The small send buffer test has the highest median and P95 one-way delay, which makes it the worst performer from the server's point of view. The baseline is more stable, and the dual small buffer case has lower delay for recorded packets. The key conclusion is that the small send buffers can introduce substantial one-way delay even when the packet loss is not shown in the server log. All right, and here in this slide, we have our buffer bloat client analysis. So this test examines higher traffic rates to look for buffer bloat or excessive delay caused by buffering. And it compares 3 cases: a high send rate with large receive buffer, a high send rate with small receive buffer, and a median send rate with a median receive buffer. The high send rate test uses 10 packets per second, while the median rate test uses 5 packets per second. And our goal here was to see whether larger buffers reduce packet loss but increase delay. And our main result was a small buffer caused by packet loss, while the medium buffer case had much higher RTT, showing the trade-off between loss and delay. And here this table summarizes the buffer bloat client experiments. The high send rate test used 10 packets per second with a large receive buffer and no packet loss, with a median RTT of about 11 milliseconds. The high send rate test with a small buffer had 40% packet loss, but the packets that arrived had a low RTT around 10.6 milliseconds. The medium rate medium buffer test had no loss but much higher RTT, with a median around 102 milliseconds. This shows two different failure modes. Small receive buffers can cause loss, while larger buffering can preserve packets but increase delay. This graph shows RTT packet by packet for the buffer bloat experiments. The high send rate large buffer test starts with one higher RTT packet but then stays low. The high send rate small buffer receive buffer test loses packets, shown by missing RTT values. The median rate medium buffer test had consistently high RTT around 100 milliseconds. This suggests buffering can prevent packet loss, but it may create queuing delay, which is the classic buffer bloat trade-off. This graph, on our next graph here, this graph shows RTT over elapsed time. It is useful for identifying buffer bloat because queue buildup often appears as sustained or increasing RTT over time. The medium buffer case stays high throughout the experiment, which suggests persistent queuing delay. The high rate small receive buffer case keeps RTT low for received packets but loses packets. So the small buffer avoids delay for successful packets but sacrifices reliability. Here in this plot, we compare payload size with RTT for the buffer bloat experiments. The medium rate medium buffer case has much higher RTT values across payload sizes, showing that the delay is not just caused by one packet size. The high rate larger buffer case mostly stays low after the first packet. The high rate small receive buffer case has low RTT for received packets, but packet loss means some payloads never complete. This reinforces the difference between delay heavy buffering and loss heavy small buffers. This chart summarizes median RTT, P95 RTT, and loss rate. The median rate medium buffer test has the highest RTT with a median around 102 milliseconds and a P95 around 105.8 milliseconds. The high rate small receive buffer test has the highest loss rate at 40%. Even though its successful RTT values are low. The high rate larger buffer test has no loss and a low median RTT, but a higher P95 due to one slower packet. The overall conclusion is that buffer sizing changes whether the network fails through delay or through packet loss. All right, and our last experiment involved MTU and packet fragmentation. So MTU, or maximum transition unit, is the largest packet size that can be transmitted over a network without fragmentation. Standard Ethernet MTU is 1500 bytes. When a UDP datagram exceeds the MTU, the IP layer divides it into smaller fragments. So our goal here was to observe how different size MTU can cause a range of fragmentation outcomes. Here is a snapshot of our testing with Wireshark. And you could see here in this specific packet that we observed that the total datagram size was 4,932 bytes. And we could see that it was divided into 4 fragments, 3 of 1480 bytes and 1 of 492 bytes, which is a total so why are these being fragmented at 1480 bytes? Is because Ethernet MTU is 1500 bytes and the IPv4 header is 20 bytes, so that gives you a remaining of 1480 bytes. Now, Wireshark confirmed that our 4,932 byte packet was split into 4 fragments. And overall, our large UDP packets are automatically fragmented when they exceed the network MTU. Wireshark allowed us to visualize this process and verify how image data was divided and reassembled during transmission. And here, although we attempted to modify the MTU to force fragmentation, macOS restricted changes to the active interface. We were still able to observe fragmentation by transmitting images larger than the standard 1500 byte Ethernet MTU. And here's our conclusion. Our experiments demonstrated how socket buffer sizes and packet transmission rates affect both reliability and latency in a UDP-based image transfer system. Basically, smaller socket buffer sizes reduce the reliability by increasing packet loss. Larger buffers can introduce substantial queuing delays, and we know that packet size matters. Overall, the project demonstrated several important networking concepts in practice. So, having smaller socket buffers reduce reliability by increasing packet loss, and then also, even though larger buffers can introduce substantial queuing delay, packet size also matters as large UDP datagrams are fragmented when they exceed the MTU. Together, these experiments provided a deeper understanding of how buffer configuration, transmission rate, and packet size influence the performance and behavior of real-world network applications. Thank you.